development being experimental and kind of iterative, and then being able to make a big organization like Epiroc change a direction or add a new way of working is challenging. And I mean, that's the part we are trying to break, because we do feel that many future scenarios will involve more and more of this, more often than what it has been before. So we would require to develop more newer business models with a shorter time cycle. So hopefully we can shed some light on how to do it with a process like this. And also maybe the front end and back end side of tensions a little bit captured in this. But
yeah, I guess we're going to walk you through the whole process and the different phases that we have kind of conceptualized, and then I guess it's specifically interesting to actually reflect a little bit on the role of the front end actors in the regional markets and the back end in each of these phases, and kind of how you need to interact.
Yeah, so the model's built on primarily these two elements here, so cognitive search and experiential learning. And what that means is that the cognitive search is the upfront analysis that you might do based on data, some kind of market research that helps you develop your value proposition and your autonomous solution offering. The experiential learning is a much more kind of practical, implementation-focused way of learning, where from proof of concepts and trials, you're actually making modifications to the business model or the offering as a whole. This then leads to some form of institutionalization, where Epiroc as an organization is capturing the learning either in formal processes, in different IT systems, or in the business model itself, to then, with the intent of making this scalable and repeatable and having routinized actions. So what we were wanting to discuss today is the interaction of these different elements and what they contain, and then with the focus that Vinit and David mentioned with the front end and the back end. Okay, so
yes,
we can start with the first box then for the cognitive search, the conceptualization. So kind of like I was briefly summarizing there, this is the upfront work that you do based on analysis. So what we're interested to understand is in what kind of analysis you're engaging with to try and understand the customer needs, and if there are any sort of market research activities, for example. We know that from our last discussions you're very heavily engaged in monitoring fleet data, for example, to conceptualize the value proposition for the customer.
And I think in some way I think it can be helpful to actually think of a specific project, a customer project, where you have kind of gone from conceptualizing the offer to creating it, experimenting with it, and
adaptation.
That makes it also a little bit more concrete, actually reflecting on how you actually did it in a specific case.
So I guess if you talk about some of your ideas that come for, okay, we could offer something like this, what could almost be the starting point? Is it usually in the back end, or is it usually in the front end this would happen?
I think it's, I'm thinking this is more like a reflection of the way Epiroc and Atlas Copco, our genes. And we are very much tilted towards the cognitive search way of working, as I'm sure that you've noticed. We tend to conceptualize, and the way you conceptualize, if you are, have been around in Epiroc, then you should be hard traveling. You should travel around the world continually to meet customers and drive home what they say. That is really the ultimate sort of preference, both from a status perspective. If you're traveling, then you're someone. If you're not allowed to travel, then you're just a supporter and assistant. I mean, like an engineer that could be just designing part of the machine, that get to travel now and then when there is a problem, but not to search. So it has been, and I'm thinking that this is about to change now, because as everybody else this year with the pandemic, we're working from home, and all of a sudden, the divisional presidents that used to travel the most, even though it could be the other way around, but like 2 years ago, you could hardly get a meeting with the divisional president because they were traveling. Partly because they had to oversee, they were put as, legally running the sales company, so they had to go to board meetings and all that. But also, typically you're heavily engaged in meeting customers. And that was previously the ultimate receipt of understanding the customer needs, and then you come home and tell them what they asked for. So that is like the true market research was not very much done. The one I come across, then it's more like from accidental and those kind of things.
So
when you ask the PVC, Accenture, the consultant companies that comes to you on a very high level, I mean, when talking very CEO and divisional president kind of level engagement in the large research in creating up a model of how much we could get paid for something. But then we get back to the conceptualization again and trying to find. And the next step when somebody comes up with the technology, I would say, if I would say that 90% of our search is on the cognitive search and 10% tops on experimental learning, then the same thing comes on the innovation triggers, that usual technology. We travel the world to the markets to see technology needs. But it's more coming from technology than the market or strategy. But strategy, the exception being the now and then McKinsey, PVC, Accenture kind of things.
So I want to a little bit maybe build on this. I think this was a very interesting point. I mean, obviously you could also think about that the conceptualization, I mean, traditionally the conceptualization is very much front end, as you highlighted, right? I mean, they're talking, then they come back and like, okay, this is what all they're asking for. What can you do, kind of? But I mean, what you challenge also with the initiative you are doing is the digitalization part, where you are actually, how do you say, capturing needs and requirements and opportunities and conceptualizing needs with the data without direct contact with customer in a direct way. So is there something different about that kind of conceptualization compared to the traditional way?
If you compare to the benchmarking that I showed you last time, I think.
Yeah.
And then I would say that it's more like, now I might sound presumptuous, but it's more to do with experimentation, since I've been very alone doing this benchmarking, showing to customers.
Okay.
I started out when I came, because I've been arguing for like 5 years that we need to do data-driven business more and come to an outcome-based business model, so that we actually get paid because the machines are performing, and not because they have a price tag and a quote. Obviously, you need to quote, but I mean, we are very rigid today that we sell and we quote technology that works with high quality. So that's like the backbone, quality, technology that we put to use. But then we sort of leave our customers. It's like Boliden told me once that we buy a machine from you, then it's like you knock the door to the castle and then you run like hell, and we open the door and whoa, there's a yellow machine there, but there's nobody here. And then it's like the Trojan horse. They wonder, should we bring it in or what is it? And that was the feeling they had. There's a lot of fancy technology, but who the fuck is helping us sort out how to use it? And I got that from Anglo-American, from Boliden, from several customers. So I started doing this like experimentation when I came then to the underground division. Then I decided to, if I can't persuade them from the role I had on the business area level, then I'll at least try to show what I mean. So I put together these benchmarks and started to show it to actual customers. It was not actually part of the divisional strategy in that way, but of course nobody objected, because I'm fairly senior. I've been 20 plus years in automation and stuff. So and they turned out very, very positive. I mean, customers obviously are interested to know how they are comparing, and all of a sudden we're not talking about our machines, we're talking about them. And that led to a very interesting development. So I started to adapt to it, because I learned quickly that, you know, just this one meeting is not enough to show them that you are falling behind this much, and this is the why. Why is because you use the machines that way, and if I compare to others, this is how you are different. That was a very strong message, but it was not enough to really build a business around. So over the last 2 years, I've been trying to add what could we do more to actually build from this benchmarking. So I'm adding now what we call dashboards. So, okay, if you see that you're falling behind on like a global scale. I'm behind